Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Narcissists are often viewed as bold, brash, and fearless, striding through life with an air of unshakable confidence. They dominate conversations, manipulate relationships, and seem to demand attention at every turn. To the untrained eye, they might even seem courageous. After all, they bask in the limelight, speak with authority, and never shy away from asserting their importance. But beneath this veneer of confidence lies a stark reality. Narcissists are cowards, driven by deep-seated fears that they work tirelessly to conceal. Narcissists, more than most people, absolutely lack the courage to face anything unpleasant. Saying they are excessively afraid of danger or pain is almost an understatement. Their fear often verges on paranoia or even delusion. In reality, these are some of the most frightened individuals on the planet, and nearly everything they do is an effort to avoid danger or pain. And all narcissists wear a mask or false persona, and when you strip away the narcissist's mask, you find weakness and vulnerability that would be pitiable if it weren't so astonishingly vicious. But chances are you won't ever remove the narcissist's mask, because they defend it at all costs, with a full arsenal of preemptive controlling and abusive tactics. Narcissists are cowards who are fundamentally terrified of themselves and anyone who might see through their mask. Their driving motivation in life is to shield themselves from threatening emotions that trigger their deep-seated sense of inferiority or narcissistic injury. At first glance, a narcissist can be intoxicatingly charismatic. Their self-assured demeanor and ability to command a room can be mistaken for true confidence. However, this is a carefully constructed persona, designed to mask an inner landscape fraught with doubt and fear. The narcissist's grandiosity, their belief that they are superior to others, is not a reflection of genuine self-esteem, but rather a defense mechanism against the deep fear that they are in fact ordinary or even unworthy. The narcissist's grandiosity is a shield, protecting them from the insecurities and inadequacies they desperately want to keep hidden. And that is the reason why narcissists invest heavily in maintaining their image. They go to great lengths to ensure that others see them as powerful, successful, and invulnerable. This is because they cannot bear the thought of being exposed as anything less. The moment their facade is threatened, the narcissist's true nature emerges, one of fragility and fear. A true mark of courage is the ability to confront one's flaws, acknowledge weaknesses, and strive for personal growth. Narcissists, however, refuse to entertain the notion that they are anything less than perfect. They cannot afford to be vulnerable, because vulnerability would expose the very fears they are running from, fears of inadequacy, rejection, and failure. This is why they construct elaborate facades of superiority. It's easier to pretend to be invincible than to face the uncomfortable truth. Another hallmark of narcissism is the need for control. Narcissists manipulate and dominate those around them, not out of genuine leadership or strength, but out of fear. The world is a frightening place for a narcissist, because it is full of uncertainties and potential threats to their fragile ego. By controlling others, they create a sense of predictability and safety, insulating themselves from the chaos that might expose their vulnerabilities. This need for control extends to all aspects of a narcissist's life, from their personal relationships to their professional endeavors. They will micromanage, belittle, and intimidate others to maintain their power, all the while avoiding situations where they might have to relinquish control. This behavior is not a sign of true strength but of cowardice, a fear of losing the upper hand and being seen as anything less than perfect. The narcissist's life is a constant balancing act, teetering on the edge of exposure. They are acutely aware, even if only subconsciously, that their inflated self-image is built on shaky ground. Any challenge to their authority, intelligence, or competence is met with hostility because it threatens to puncture the illusion they've created. This is why narcissists are so quick to anger, why they lash out when criticized, and why they go to great lengths to discredit anyone who dares to question them. Their bravado is in reality a form of cowardice, a desperate attempt to keep their inner fears at bay. This fear of exposure also explains the narcissist's inability to handle relationships in a healthy and mature way. True intimacy requires trust, openness, and a willingness to be seen for who you really are. But for a narcissist, this level of closeness is terrifying. They fear that if someone gets too close, they'll see through the facade and uncover the insecure, fearful person hiding underneath. As a result, narcissists often sabotage their relationships, keeping people at arm's length or discarding them altogether once they no longer serve a purpose. When you try to confront a narcissist about anything, even something minor, they find it intolerable and assume that everyone else also operates in the same way. They are convinced that you will eventually betray, abandon, or reject them, so they try to beat you to it. This way, they avoid being surprised, or caught off guard, by it. They fear being unprepared, which is another thing they worry about excessively. For a narcissist, being caught off guard, or surprised feels very threatening. It implies a loss of control. They perceive not knowing something as highly dangerous, because it means losing control, and potentially being exploited or outmaneuvered by others, who have information which they might lack. This fear is why many narcissists have so much trouble admitting that they don't know something. Narcissists also fear that if they don't control people or situations, they won't get what they need from them. Their fear of not having enough, known as a scarcity mindset, drives them to accumulate as much as possible, whether it's power, control, or other assets. They perceive their resources as limited and finite, so they're wary of investing in things that might not yield returns. As a result, they try to control every situation they're involved in, usually to the greatest extent possible if they can get away with it. Narcissists typically have a deep-seated fear of others. They worry that people will control, harm, change, or manipulate them. They see the world as a fundamentally frightening and unsafe place, where everyone is out to exploit or hurt them in some way. They are deeply afraid of being tricked, manipulated, or exploited by others. This fear runs deep, likely because they worry they won't see the deception coming, leaving them unprepared and unable to protect themselves. Due to this pervasive mistrust, they trust no one and never let their guard down for anyone. If you think about it, one of the major issues in any relationship with a narcissist is their complete lack of trust. They simply don't trust you and never will. The concept of trust doesn't even exist for them. This lack of trust is evident in their attitudes towards honesty, respect, and repairing relationships. For instance, many narcissists view manipulating others as a sign of their own superior intelligence. They often believe, they perceive, and see things that others cannot. They believe they have a unique understanding of the truth about how people really are. In reality, they are often just projecting their own immorality, paranoia, and distrust onto others. When it comes to manipulating others, they often think that if someone falls for their tricks, it's because the person is foolish and deserves it. They view it as the individual's own fault for not seeing through the deception. In truth, manipulation has nothing to do with intelligence. It doesn't take any specific level of intelligence to manipulate someone, and the intelligence of the person being manipulated is irrelevant. The core issue in these situations is that the narcissist has betrayed the person's trust, and intelligence has nothing to do with it. However, narcissists are unlikely to view it this way because the concept of trust is foreign to them. They simply see the situation as proof that the other person is foolish for believing them. This mindset reveals an underlying self-loathing, as narcissists consider people to be naive for trusting them, or failing to see that they are a bad person. This self-loathing is evident in the way narcissists disregard or fail to understand the concept of trust. Since they cannot trust others, they cannot relax or form genuine relationships. Without trust, a real relationship is impossible. However, the greatest fear for narcissists is themselves. They are terrified of their true selves, their actual feelings, the reality of situations, how others perceive them, and how others truly feel about them. This fear of their true selves and their lives drives much of their behavior. It's why they construct a false persona, lie, perform, gaslight, and constantly clash with reality. Narcissists are essentially at war with reality itself. They view reality as an affront, offensive, upsetting, and triggering. It angers and demeans them, and it not only exposes them to others, but also forces them to confront their own vulnerabilities. And worst of all, the real audience for the narcissist's act isn't other people, they are merely props used to make the performance more convincing. The only audience that actually matters to the narcissist is themselves. Their entire performance is a solitary effort aimed at avoiding confrontation with reality. Everything they do, the lying, manipulation, gaslighting, is all about evading the truth, which may be the clearest sign of their profound cowardice. This person is so terrified of their true self and so in denial, that they've constructed an entirely different reality to live in. They devote all their energy to avoiding any clash with reality, because they cannot handle it, and don't know how to cope with it. Despite their reputation for being confrontational and aggressive, and their well-deserved reputation for attacking others, narcissists often have a profound fear of direct confrontation. They try to avoid it as much as possible, even while they are lashing out at others. It might seem contradictory, but they refuse to listen and respond meaningfully to what they hear, and deflect or twist everything said to something that they actually can deal with better. They avoid acknowledging anything at all. Even in confrontational situations, narcissists engage in constant denial and avoidance, which is why nothing can ever get resolved. You can't explain what really happened because they refuse to listen, and even if you try to give them what they want, they often refuse to accept it. This behavior isn't merely an attempt to maintain a perceived power position, it's an expression of their underlying fear. Narcissists are so fearful of listening to you or accepting a conciliatory gesture, because they worry that even giving an inch, or conceding even slightly, means you're controlling or tricking them. Their words in these situations clearly reflect this fear, even if they wanted to believe in the things that you're saying. They are too rigid and, more importantly, too afraid to see things differently. Most of the time, the only reason they're attacking is that they believe you've wronged them, even if you're unaware of what you did, or have done nothing to upset them. From their perspective, you forced them into the confrontation. They don't see themselves as the aggressor, but as someone defending themselves. Remember, to a narcissist, reality itself is an aggression. Simply acknowledging the truth feels like a direct attack to them, an act of war, and they respond accordingly. This is why no contact is so strongly recommended in dealing with narcissists. They are cowards, and cowards are dangerous. They fear exposure more than anything, even death. Narcissists are more terrified of themselves and the reality of who they are, than they are of you or anything else, and they will go to great lengths to avoid facing that truth. This makes them dangerous, both intentionally and as a natural consequence of their behavior. Whether or not a narcissist is deliberately trying to harm others, and often they are, just being around them is harmful. Being relentlessly gaslit and constantly forced into their alternate reality can be very damaging to others. There doesn't need to be any malicious intent, though there often is, because simply being around a narcissist is inherently dangerous, due to the very way they operate. This is crucial to understand because it highlights why a relationship with a narcissist can never work. You live in reality, and they do not. Not only do they not live in reality, but they also find it threatening and dangerous. They will go to great lengths to avoid facing reality, including trying to control or even destroy everyone else's perception of it. As a result, you might unintentionally terrorize, threaten, and harm them repeatedly throughout the day simply by living in reality, which they cannot handle. Your very existence serves as a reminder of the reality they are trying to escape. This is a profound betrayal in their eyes, and many people don't fully grasp how deep this really goes. This isn't just a harmless fantasy someone is indulging in. For a pathologically narcissistic personality, it's almost a matter of life or death. The collapse of their alternate reality means the collapse of their entire personality structure. It's that critical, that straightforward, and that unavoidable. You're not dealing with a harmless or benign individual here. This is an emotional terrorist who insists that everyone around them should conform to their version of reality. They punish people harshly if they don't comply. They are so irrationally afraid of reality that those who live in it are seen as enemies. This is a delusional individual who is willing to go to war over trivial requests, such as asking, "Can you please pick up your shoes?" Remember, being a coward doesn't make someone less dangerous. In some ways, narcissists are actually more dangerous because of their cowardice, for the reasons we've discussed. Even more alarming is that they might not be aware of their own fear and cowardice, or may completely refuse to acknowledge it. This lack of self-awareness can lead to explosive outbursts of rage. Narcissists often react strongly whenever they experience fear, because it makes them feel vulnerable and weak, things they both despise and fear intensely. Yes, narcissists fear fear itself. They believe that any weakness makes them susceptible to being exploited, so they must respond to any fear, in a way that eliminates these feelings of weakness. Unfortunately, the only way they often know how to do this is through abusive behavior towards others. This dynamic is often seen in domestic and family violence situations. For example, the abuser uses violence to assert power and control, aiming to eliminate their feelings of weakness and combat their fear. In the most extreme instances, the abuser cannot tolerate the fear and sense of vulnerability caused by losing control over the victim or the situation, leading them to take drastic measures to address it. People often find this confusing, because it seems contradictory for an abuser to kill the victim, if they don't want to lose them. After all, killing the victim means losing them permanently. However, the issue isn't about losing the victim as an individual, it's about losing control over them and the situation. For the abuser, this loss of control reflects poorly on them, which is absolutely intolerable. A simple way to understand the mindset of a pathologically narcissistic person is this. You're the one who should be afraid of me, not the other way around. You don't control me, I'm the boss and have the power. This is how I feel safest. In a nutshell, narcissists are fundamentally cowards who cannot handle life, reality, or anything in a genuine way. This makes their behavior both predictable in some respects and unpredictable in others, but extremely dangerous regardless. If you're dealing with a pathologically narcissistic person, calling them out on their cowardice is likely a bad idea, as they view cowardice as a sign of weakness and fear. These two things, weakness and fear, they despise and fear most, are likely because it's such a huge part of who and what they really are. Understanding this can help you maintain perspective on what a narcissist really is. They are so limited and terrified that the only way they can cope with life is by pretending to be someone they're not. It's much like a child's make-believe game. Any claim that they are something other than what they truly are is just buying into their act. Don't fall for it. Stay cautious, be smart, and recognize the reality of the situation. Understand that, in essence, they're not much at all. To see a narcissist for what they truly are is to understand the profound cowardice that drives their behavior. Their arrogance is a mask, their grandiosity a smokescreen, and their controlling nature is a desperate bid to stave off the fear that haunts them. They are not the fearless leaders they portray themselves to be, rather, they are individuals deeply afraid of facing their own imperfections. Understanding this can be liberating for those who find themselves entangled with a narcissist. It shifts the perspective from one of intimidation to one of pity, only if they weren't so horribly vicious. The next time a narcissist tries to dominate a conversation, belittle your achievements, or lash out in anger, remember, you're not dealing with someone who is genuinely strong. You're dealing with someone who is running from themselves. True courage lies in self-awareness, in the ability to acknowledge one's flaws, and in the willingness to grow and change. Narcissists, for all their bluster, lack this courage. They may wear the mask of a fearless warrior, but beneath it, they are nothing more than cowards, hiding from a world that they fear will one day see through their charade. So I hope this helps clarify things for you. If this content was helpful, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. As always, I welcome your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep them coming. I express my gratitude to everyone for tuning in and watching. Let us help spread the awareness and lead healthier and fulfilling lives.